Hello, everyone. Welcome to On the Move, a show where we share transportation sales marketing success stories. I'm Jennifer Karpus-Romain, Executive Director at the Transportation Marketing and Sales Association, which is a trade nonprofit educating and connecting marketing and sales professionals in transportation and logistics. Today on the show, we have Patrick McFarland, Senior Director of Marketing at ITS Logistics. Welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
We are excited to have you here, and I wanted to bring you on the show because I wanted to talk about all things industry, trade show strategies, and I know that's something that ITS Logistics has really dove into the past couple of years. And so when I was setting up this podcast, I was like, I know who I can call and talk to. So first things first, how do you evaluate what shows to test out when you go to build your strategy?
Sure. I'll give you a little bit of background first. We hadn't really done trade shows prior to 2 years ago. So this was a newer strategy for us. But I can tell you when I was first doing our research, kind of kicking this program off, and ultimately it was to not to oversimplify, but it was really for twofold. One was to kind of build our brand. Even at $1 billion company, we're still relatively unknown in the industry, being only 24, 25 years old. So wanted to get our name out there and build our brand and sponsorship, and we knew going to trade shows would be one way to help elevate our brand. So, and then the other one is obviously getting in front of shippers, customers, vendors as well, carriers as well, but ultimately is to drive revenue, to get leads, to build relationships, right? So when we first considered doing this and how I was going to evaluate where we're going to go to be honest, it was pretty straightforward. One, we did the research and we looked at the existing trade shows that are out there, especially for the industry, and we focused on the ones where our competitors were, to be honest. And then after that, where our customers were going, where our shippers were going, where the people we wanted to talk to, the ones that they were attending, either if we knew they were speaking or if we knew they had historically been there, or we reached directly out to them and said, hey, what trade shows do you guys go to? So that'd be the two ways we have originally used to kind of target which ones to go to. Who's going, who's been there, people we want to talk to, and to be honest, where our competition was.
I think those are really good metrics. I mean, especially, yes, thank you for giving that insight too, because of course, that is why I called you, because I knew it was a newer strategy, but something that has worked really well for you guys, but always good to give that scope to our audience. And so now that you guys have done it for a couple of years, how do you evaluate, like, what milestones do you need to hit to return to a show, up your engagement? How does that kind of factor in?
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we've been doing it for a couple of years, and now, I mean, for instance, like we're going to a couple coming up here, TPM and Manifest in Q1, and those are shows that we've now been to 2 times before. So, but there's definitely a couple that we're not going back to, right? And without naming names, I'd basically say once we've gone there and experienced the show, we've seen it in person, we've seen what our sponsorship looks like, we've seen what the trade show floors look like, the activity on the trade show floor, the shippers that actually showed up there, the vendors, the carriers, then it really comes down to, were there enough of them, right? Did we actually have, not only that, I mean, I can think of one show that we've gone to twice and we won't be going back to in the third year, and it has all the right companies and has all the right supply chain titles, but we just weren't able to find a way to have meaningful interactions to make it worth it. To be honest, that's really what it comes down to, right? And so the ones where we can find the people we want to talk to, we can have real interactions, meaningful conversations that moves our relationship forward, those are the ones where we definitely want to go back to. At the end of the day, did we drive revenue? Did we build opportunities? And did we get our brand and our name out there? And those I'd say the key metrics we use to kind of evaluate, and those are the ones we're going to go back to, or continue to invest, or even grow investment in some cases.
I'm glad that you mentioned Manifest, because I have right here that we are doing a TMSA networking event at Manifest at the ITS Logistics booth. So if you want to join us, you can scan that QR code. Really excited about it. It will be 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on February 11th. TMSA Quick Bites, Big Connections. You'll get to hang out with me and Patrick and our TMSA friends. So excited about that. I do think that it's good when you're evaluating, like, okay, I love that you said that, you know, there was a show that had all of the right things. We went into it thinking, okay, we're going to meet these people, but we weren't able to have meaningful connections. And I do think that part of that is one of the biggest I see in terms of marketing, sales, and trade shows is that there's not like a formalized pre, during, and post show strategy to even be able to evaluate that. Because a lot of times what I hear is, oh my God, I met so many people, it was great, but I didn't have time to follow up. Well, you need to make the time. That's part of the that's part of it. So it's good that you're like, oh, we didn't find ways to meaningfully connect, because that means that you're still doing the strategy piece of that, but it's just you weren't making those connections. I think if you're only engaging at the show and you're not building out that pre and post strategy, you're really missing out on the process. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's something we learned early on. Like, I don't want to say the first couple we did in the very first, a couple of years ago, but yeah, we found out who was going and we tried to reach out as much as we could. But then when we got there, we're like, oh, now we're going to do so much work once we get there. But oh my gosh, you have to do so much pre-show work to really make it successful. So absolutely. I mean, a key part of that is to, one, identify who's going to be there. And that's hard, right? So, I mean, rarely does a trade show actually give you like a full list of attendees, right? So you got to do the work, man. There are no shortcuts there. I have a great staff. Ash Toms, she runs our trade show strategy here. It's work. You got to do your work. You got to see who's been there. You have to figure out the companies. Then you have to figure out the contacts. Obviously, if you can do some networking prior and you actually know they're going to be there, reach out to them. That's ideal. But in some cases, you really just kind of got to guess a little bit. And so that's either figuring out who's, if they've sponsored there before, if they've attended previously, if anyone's speaking there from the company, or at some point, if the trade shows do give you at least a list of the companies that are going to attend, then again, you got to use some kind of platform to go and try to get the contacts of the most likely supply chain titles that are going to be there. And then absolutely, then you got to do some pre-show marketing messaging, right? Like, hey, we're going to be at the show, we're going to be at the booth, we're doing this event, we'd love to, meet up. And so that works. Like, you definitely want to pepper them a little bit with some pre-show email campaigns to just get your brand in front of them. Let them know you're going to be there. Let them know if you have anything exciting you want to talk about. You're unveiling a new technology. You have a certain exec that's going to be there. You have a speaking engagement. You have an event. So give them something of value. And then you obviously want to talk about the solutions you can offer and hope it's something that they're looking for, right? Then you have to engage with your sales team, because marketing emails only go so far, right? So now you really have to engage with your sales team. And then the salespeople that are signed to those companies and those contacts, they have to do some pre-show research. And again, it's not easy. There's no easy button for this. You got to do the work. So now it's them proactively reaching out with a personal email, with a phone call, with a LinkedIn request, whatever that is, in order to try to engage with them, let them know you're going to be at the show. And then it's all about pre-scheduling appointments, right? So whether that's like a full-on meeting, awesome. Maybe it's just like a lunch or a coffee, cool. At the very least, maybe it's just a booth stop by. Or if you're going to have an event or you're going to do something there, you can invite them to that, right? So yeah. And then it's game day ops, man. So once you're there, you've done all the pre-show work, you've let them know you're coming. You've tried to set up a pre-meeting, but now you're there. And now it's with whoever you didn't get in front of, you got to do the work, and you have to send people out on the floor, and you have to go and find them. And again, the whole point of this is to really, they're a shipper, they have a needs, we're a provider, we have a solution, and it's just trying to get in front of them and having a meaningful conversation. End of the day, that's it. And then to your point, now what? So now we've done the pre-show work. Now we've had the event. We've done all the work there. We tried to have all the meaningful relationships and connections we possibly can. And now it's post-show follow-up. So you can't just let it die, right? So again, now here's where marketing and sales have to be truly uniquely. You got to be in lockstep. You have to be in communication. Make sure that you're following up. If you had a great conversation there, maybe you just got a business card, or maybe you just made a digital, a LinkedIn connection. Now what? Right? So if you didn't have a great interaction with them there, but you at least know who they are and they know who you are, now you have to follow up, and now you have to get in their inbox. You have to get on the phone with them, and then hopefully meet to a post meeting after that. That again is really comes down to a meaningful conversation where we can talk about our solutions, they can talk about their problems, and hopefully find a way for us to work together.
I think that's all really good advice, and it is important to really think through all three pieces of that. I also think it's important to know who can do what and who excels in what area. So And I say that because this is something I'm learning too. So I am, the main representative of TMSA when I go to trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I, in the past, would mark all the booths that I wanted to go to and introduce people to. I shouldn't publicly say this, but especially because you're a board member, I don't go to all those booths because I'm really bad at approaching somebody and starting a conversation like that. Not that I don't, but it's just not my strong suit. It makes me very uncomfortable. I don't know what to say. I can talk about TMSA. It's just that the 10 seconds, it makes me uncomfortable. And because I've been someone who's worked a booth and I hate when people come to me when I'm trying to work and sell things and they're trying to sell me things. So I don't like to have that experience. What I did at the end of last year is I actually did what you said, schedule the meetings ahead of time. And what a game changer, because I was like, I know who I want to meet. And so I'm going to find them. But then I was like, yes, but you are very uncomfortable and awkward when you find them on the spot. If you know you're meeting them, you're less uncomfortable. So I feel like there's a piece of being pretty honest with yourself of like where your strong suits are. And of course, training yourself to be better in those areas that you're not. Or if you have a team, like who on your marketing sales teams are better at approaching conversations, who are better at follow-up, there's all kinds of that. But I feel like, yeah, because when you're there, you have to find them and be comfortable. And if that's not something that you aren't, how do you get better at it, train your team to be better at it? But then how can you help yourself be better in the moment? By prepping. And so that's something that I have learned over the past 8 months is, oh wow, I do so much better when I feel more prepared and better. Okay, even if the only people I meet are these 6 people that I have really great meetings with, you feel better about yourself going into the show too.
No, absolutely. You're completely right. You have to, not everyone's built for trade shows, right? You clearly have to be an extrovert. You clearly have to be okay just walking up to people you've never met before and trying to have a real conversation, right? That's another thing on the pre-show work is identifying, even when you identify the companies you're looking for and the supply chain people that are actually going to be in attendance. Do a little research, find out about them, find out what they're maybe they have some upcoming RFP, maybe they have some needs, maybe they've talked about some pain points publicly. Do a little research, so you're actually bringing some value to that conversation, and not just, hey, I'm so and so at such company, and yeah, we do everything. How can we help, right? So yeah, you want to, again, it's the whole goal is to have a meaningful interaction with someone and hopefully lead to an opportunity to work together. But yeah, trade shows not for everybody. It's not for the meek. It's not for the introvert. You have to get out there for sure to be successful in that environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that you said that too, the research, because I think if we approach shippers with hey, we can do everything for you, they're like, I don't need you to do everything. I need you to do what I need you to do. I don't care that you can do everything. Can you do what I need? And so I do think doing that research is really important, because they don't care what you can do. They care what you can do for them. And so saying, oh, we can do everything I don't think that resonates the way that people think it does for the end user in that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And let's be honest. I mean, in some cases, you hope that shippers, our customers, are coming to trade shows because they have some kind of need. They're looking for some kind of solution, but not always. Sometimes they're coming to network. Sometimes they're coming to speak. Sometimes they're coming there. They're actively looking for someone. And then, as a provider, we're like, hey, we're here. How can we help? How can we ship the freight? And so you have to acknowledge that, and hopefully there's an opportunity to work together, but not always, and that's fine. So then at that point, you just kind of network, and you just make them aware of who you are and what you're available. And then after that, it's like, let me know if you ever need help, and go move on to someone else.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when we talk about that post, I normally turn my Apple Watch off when I do these, but apparently I forgot to do that today and it's blowing up. I'm just going to take it off. So we talked about, okay, then you can't forget about that post, that follow-up. And so I'm curious, how quickly does your team reach out to the people you've met? So you have the business card, you go to your room at night, whatever time that is, it's later for other people than it is. Are you then emailing them? Are you LinkedIn messaging them immediately? Are you waiting a couple of days? What is that cadence? What is coming on too strong? And what is, hey, no, I'm top of mind, so I'm going to reach out?
I think you have to gauge the interaction. I mean, there in some cases, like literally, we've got to quote freight on the floor. So in that case, you're immediately emailing, you're immediately connecting on LinkedIn, you're immediately exchanging contact information, and you're potentially quoting a solution for them. Other times, yeah, it's just a LinkedIn on the day of, like, hey, I know I just met this person, I just got their card. Maybe I'll fire off a quick email saying, hey, it was great meeting you, and that's it. Or maybe just a LinkedIn, hey, again, it was great meeting you. Looking forward to interacting in the future, and that's kind of it. For more meaningful follow-up, I'll typically, and the sales org and whoever attends the shows on our behalf, we'll typically kind of give a couple days, let them get travel. Typically, anyone that goes to a trade show, you're in it, 2, 3, 4 days all in. So by the time you get back to work, you're traveling, and then you're usually behind on emails and business and meetings. And so it kind of takes people a couple of days to catch up. So kind of that couple day window, and then you want to reach out with a meaningful interaction, like hey, or hey, follow up, like hey, we talked about such and such. I'd love to actually talk to you about that more. Let's get in person. Let's get on a phone call. Let's have another meeting like that. So give them a little bit of time to kind of get caught up, and then come at them with how you can actually help and try to engage with that next step of the conversation.
Absolutely. And we talked about kind of that need of alignment between sales and marketing, because both of these groups have a piece of that puzzle. I think marketing can bring in all the leads from a show, but if the sales team isn't either equipped or have the capacity to do that follow-up in a meaningful way, then so much is left on the table. So what's your advice for teams really struggling with that alignment to kind of work through that?
I will say, in the 2 years I've been doing this, was probably one of the bigger challenges, right? Marketing and sales, and making sure your sales team is engaged with the follow-up process to take advantage of that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a big investment, right? You pay for the sponsorship, you pay for the booth, you pay for the travel, you pay for your people cost in being there. So you don't do this lightly, right? And so if you really want to get the return on your investment, it's the engagement, and the follow-up is huge. I would say the most success that we have is definitely when the salespeople that are going to be doing the follow-up are the ones at the trade show. We've had some scenarios where maybe it's not their customer, and you have trade show, the salespeople are there, and they'll do a handoff. They'll be like, oh, I talked to so and so, it's a great conversation, and here's their business card follow-up. Those are the ones that are more challenging, right? So it's definitely better if you have the actual salespeople that are at the shows are the ones that are going to be doing the follow-ups and trying to get those meetings afterwards. That's where we have our most success for sure. But that's not always, the dream scenario, right? So sometimes you do have to have that handoff. So at that point, it's just clear communication from marketing, from trade show attendees, clear communication. This was the conversation. This is who we talked to. This is the opportunity. Maybe a warm handoff, like, hey, Bob, it was great meeting you in the show. This is Sarah. She's going to be following up with you. She absolutely is going to help you. This is what she's bringing to the table. I know we talked about this, and she's going to be your person going forward. So clear communication, exactly what was said in the conversation, what the opportunity is, and then a direct and clear handoff. So everyone's kind of just engaged throughout the entire process. That'd be my best advice.
I think that's really good advice. And as the marketing side of things, do you help with that messaging? So I know back when I was in this seat, we would go to different industries. And so I had some sales reps that were stronger in some industries than others, but if they would still have the leads. And so I would be like, okay, these are the things to talk about over here. And I'd give like a bullet list to help them when they are getting up in those conversations. Is that something that you find your sales team resonates with, or they stop telling me how to do my job?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the success and the ROI on trade shows is kind of up to us as a group, marketing and sales together. But a lot of the times, the marketing people are the ones that are setting up the booth, setting up all the trade show, making sure everyone's there, doing all the events. So yeah, we're heavily engaged and heavily invested in the success of that follow up, right? So yeah, you can only remind a salesperson to follow up so many times before it's annoying for both sides. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to just good, clear communication, good, clear handoff. And salespeople, I mean, dude, we have some phenomenal salespeople. And I know if there's an opportunity and they know it's real and they can see it, then they're going to do everything they possibly can to have those meaningful conversations, have those next steps in the meetings, and hopefully at some point, get into an RFP or books of business from that interaction. So So yeah, at the end of the day, it's definitely a group effort. There's a lot of people invested and involved in the process, but alignment, clear communication, clear handoffs, and then and then let salespeople do what they do, which hopefully is build relationships and bring opportunities to the table and close business.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that marketing are really the people who are driving that booth, like setting up the booth, doing the booth. How do you know what you want to put in your booth, and how do you evaluate year to year? And like, can you use the same booth for every show, or do you have to change things up a bit? And do you still have to pay for the extra padding underneath the carpet? Because that was always I would always tell my salespeople, wear comfortable shoes. I'm not paying extra money for padding.
Ash and I have that conversation every time we price out what we're going to be doing at each next trade show, and I always freak out every time she brings me the price list. I'm like, how much does this cost? Yeah, no, you're right. It's a lot. It's crazy how much they can charge for some of those venues. Anyway, what do you have at the booth? We've had a couple of different booths. We have kind of a booth A and a booth B for sometimes if we have two trade shows at the same time. So we have like a varsity and a JV one, a backup. We did change. We had one that worked for the first year and we learned a lot. So we did design another one for our second year, and that's the one we're currently using, and it works great. It allows some flexibility to go from like a 10 by 20 to a 10 by 10. We have different pop-ups depending on if we're going to an industry vertical, say automotive. Maybe we have a different pop-up for that one, or we usually have a TV and it plays different types of videos for the that's more relevant to the audience for that individual trade show or specific trade show. So you definitely want to tweak it and change it up. And I mean, you want to have some cool swag, right? You want to have something where people stop by, even if they don't really, there's not a match, there's not a fit, and that's fine. They walk away with something kind of fun and nothing else. They have the ITS, squeezy ball, right? They'll have the ITS brand in their office, sitting at their desk, squeezing it. They'll be thinking about us. So you want to have some good giveaways. Another thing I don't think we really got into it, and it might be one of your questions later, but you also want to have some kind of event, some kind of draw, some kind of value you're going to give to people to spend some time with you, right? And you and everyone else. Everyone has an event. They have a steak dinner. They have a happy hour at a bar. So that's a key part of it too, is having a fun event where you can, again, just engage with those people and have a meaningful interaction, a meaningful conversation, start to build a relationship, start to build some trust. At the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. We're not recreating the wheel here. It's all about relationships, and trade shows and events at trade shows are just more opportunities to build real relationships and connections, so that if they do have a need in the future and you are someone that can help them with it, you can have a real conversation and hopefully lead to working together. But yeah, have a cool event where it's fun and everyone has a good time.
Yeah, I think that's definitely helpful. And I know you mentioned too, like anything that you can promote at the show is great. So new product, is somebody speaking? Do you have an event? Like all of those things just set you apart and makes you a little bit more newsworthy. I know, so in my past life, I also covered events as a journalist. And so those were the things that were the most interesting to me. And if it was actually timely. I feel like a lot of more industrial spaces, they'll be like, we have a new capacity. We've been doing it for 3 years. I'm like, that's not really new though. That's old news. And so, and that's actually part of why I ended up on the marketing side of things. I'm like, I want to help you. And so I had to retire a bit. But so those types of things are really great too, because as your media, they're looking at press releases, they're looking at that type of stuff. And also don't be afraid to put out press releases about your event, about your space, about your product. So that way you're engaging and you're able to release that information as part of your pre, during, and post show strategy as well. Because I feel like that's a piece that people forget. They're like, okay, we're at the show. Okay, but what are you doing at the show? How is that meaningful? And how do you engage in that? So those are always great ways to get what you're doing out too.
Absolutely.
And then, so you mentioned cool swag. What is your metric on what makes cool swag memorable?
To be honest, it's your audience kind of decides that. What does your audience show up and what it's like? We've done squeezy containers, and for whatever reason, people loved us. Like anyone will come by and be like, "Oh, can I get one of those cool containers?" And it has an ITS Logistics logo on it. It has a Container AI logo, which is our supply chain visibility or container management visibility platform. Great, give them away all day long. Squeezy balls, I think those are always fun. I like to catch them and throw them and hand them off to people. Who doesn't like a little squeezy ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, higher end stuff, we don't really do much of that. But more it's just the stuff that people actually engage with. And again, you want it to be nice enough to where they actually keep it, hopefully, at their desk, and have your branded item in front of them, so you stay top of mind, right?
Mm-hmm. I think that my two things that I think about is it functional? Because I don't want something I can't actually use. And then two, can I give it to my kid? Because I travel a good amount and he wants presents everywhere I go. And so the best trade shows are the ones that I can have a whole collection of things that I can hand off to my kid. And he knows many logistics companies because he has things in his toy box. Yes, the stress balls. He has a million cups. He has hats. He wears the TMSA t-shirts from last year to school. And yeah, bags. Every like drawstring bag carries so much trucks and monster trucks and cars, all that stuff. That's all really helpful. Got a pizza cutter once. That was really, really cool. Use it all the time. So like I like things that are functional and that I can hand off to my child so I don't have to buy more cars.
You are 100% correct. There is a plethora of kids, of supply chain execs that have all kinds of branded crap at their houses because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. My nieces will come over and they'll be like, what are our options today? After TMSA events is actually the worst because everything gets shipped back to my house. So if there's like extra sponsor swag stuff, they'll like go digging in I'm like, those aren't for you. I'll reuse. Like, dig one. The mints. Oh my God, they fight over mints like crazy, especially the ones shaped like trucks. Mm-hmm. Big deal over here. So I'm curious too, so we've talked a lot about like the selling aspect of going to trade shows, but there's also a lot of trade shows out there, such as TMSA, that is for professional development. And so does ITS aim for conferences that are able to do both, or is it better to have like, okay, we're going to really dedicate the professional development at this 1 to 2 shows and the rest are designed for sales? How do you kind of break up that and make sure that you're still training your team and so they have that professional development opportunity, but then also have the ability to like sell and get the revenue?
Yeah, no, I think it's two very different strategies, but I think they're both important. Obviously, the first and primary is to go out and have meaningful actions and get in front of customers and shippers. So we, from a commercial standpoint, we definitely prioritize those, and we definitely have a ton of those that we go to. I think we're doing probably 8 to 10 this year, and we've done that for the last couple of years. So yeah, those are the priority, and obviously there's the commercial. You're looking for a return, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, the professional development ones, the networking inside of the organization. We go to a handful, right? When TAA, DAT has a really good conference we go to. We have a couple of our customers that kind of have their things. We go to those as well. And that's for networking, but as well as kind of a professional skill building as well. But yeah, then there's something like TMS, right? Where it's 100% networking, but also just professional development. You have to have those, right? If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So me, I'm obviously on the TMSA board. I've been a member of TMSA for going on 8+ years. It's a great organization, and absolutely, that's the one thing where I can go. I'm not going to go to TMSA. I'm not going to go pick up another customer, but I am going to go and network. I am going to go and learn what's going on in the industry. I'm absolutely going to learn some new skills, and I'm going to build relationships with other people in the industry so that I can use as a sounding board for when I'm trying to figure out the challenge I'm trying to overcome. It's like now I actually have some people I can reach out to that are having that same experience and might have some advice for me. So yeah, professional development is a huge deal in this industry, especially in supply chain. It's so specific and niche and unique, and we have all of our own language and media and just everything in it. So yeah, so an organization like TMSA is phenomenal for professional development. So yeah, I'm definitely going to focus on the commercial ones, but it's nice to have 1 or 2 where you're also doing some professional development and networking.
Absolutely. And I really like the ability to space those out because we want people to come to TMSA. And if you're interested, Elevate is June 8th through 10th in Austin, Texas. You can scan that QR code down there. But we want people to come and be immersed. We want them to network and to learn. And of course, we have vendors too that you can partner with. You can build your efficiency. You can build out, different capabilities and really figure out what you need. But if you came to TMSA just to try to sell, then you would kind of miss some of that stuff because you would be focused. So I do think investing in professional development, making sure that's part of the overall strategy for the year is really important. So I was just curious how you kind of break that up and make that happen, which is great.
Yep, still important.
And so my last question for you of the day is the question that I ask everyone that comes on the show. And that is, if you could go back in time and advise a younger Patrick, and this is anything professionally or personally, when would you go back to and what would you tell him?
Oh man, buy Apple stock, Microsoft stock, Facebook, Tesla stock. Let's see, outside of stock advice or sports betting tips, you know what? Just be engaged, put yourself out there, try a bunch of different things. I know anytime I've given advice or mentoring someone younger up that's coming up in the industry, specifically in marketing, I will always say do an internship. 100% do an internship because it exposes you to so much early on in your career or even when you're still in education. So I mean, a lot of times I'll tell someone to go do an internship in a marketing agency, and that's great because you're exposed to all the different types of things. And not only will you probably be drawn towards something, hey, account management or design or PR, right, media relations, but you probably see the things you don't like. Like, I'm never going to be a graphic designer, so I'm not even going to go in that direction. Mm-hmm. So that exposure, doing an internship is a huge thing. And then honestly, after that, it's finding trade organizations and networking is a big part of it too. Getting your name out there, meeting the people that are in the industry, learning from other smarter people that are more experienced and kind of been there, done that is a huge leg up, especially early on in your career. So I mean, not to bring it back to TMSA, but yeah, younger people getting in the industry and an organization like TMSA is great because it allows you to network and just build out the people inside the industry, and they can be future employers, they can be future customers, who knows. So yeah, networking and finding trade organizations is a big deal.
I think that's really good advice. I too, when people are younger, like coming out of college and stuff, like don't be afraid to work at a small company where you're going to have your hands in a bunch of different pots, because you're going to figure out, like you said, very quickly what you like, what you don't like, and just have exposure. Like, I know I had a friend, we worked somewhere together, did all kinds of things, and then he went somewhere where he was just an email marketer, and he was like, wow, I'm bored, because like all of a sudden you go and of course there's jobs that make sense, and he was able to expand later on, but that was like, he was like, this is just one thing and I'm used to doing so much of it, and it was just one piece of the puzzle. And so I think it's important to have exposure to a lot of different things and figure it out and move forward. So I think that's really good advice to younger Patrick, but also anyone else that would be coming in, of course.
That guy needs a lot of help.
Yeah. And then, yes, of course, TMSA or any organization that's going to make sense. I finally figured out how to explain TMSA to children, that it's like being in Cub Scouts, but like as a grown up, coming together with like-minded people who have your same interests. I know a lot of our sales and marketing teams are really small in the industry, so you don't get to sit and talk with people about what you go through and figure out what's working. And finding those people that are able to really have those conversations and volunteer with those people, potentially join committees, all of that stuff really just amplifies what you're able to do as a professional.
Nice. Like Cub Scouts, but for sales and marketing professionals and supply chain, TMSA.
Oh, yeah. So third grade in our school is when you have career day. And I went last year, and I just focused too much on the transportation and not enough on the association part. The kids were very lost. My sister was at the table next to me, and she just started screaming that I was on YouTube. And so then all the kids, because this show goes on YouTube, and I'm like, it's not I'm not unboxing gifts on YouTube. It's not going to be as exciting as you think, but yes, I am on YouTube. Thank you. And so, but I now will have another niece, and then by the time Monroe gets to third grade, I think I'll have my messaging down. But I explained it because he knows TMSA. That he doesn't know what it stands for, but he knows that that's what mommy does. I think by the time he's in third grade, I'll figure it out. But I'm like, it's like Cub Scouts, but for adults. And we talk about sales and marketing. He's like, cool.
That is a fun thing. And anytime anyone watching this, I'm looking directly at you now, go home and ask your kids to explain what it is that you do.
Mm-hmm.
How accurate it is.
Yeah, he actually goes, my mom's the boss. That's all he says. And I was like, okay, can you not do that though? And then, yeah, he was concerned when I took a vacation. Like, well, what happens? I was like, it still runs, bud. Like, we figured it out. But yeah, that is really fun. Ask your kids what you do. You'll be surprised at some of the answers they come up with for sure. But yeah, thank you.
Even teenagers, like even asking my teenage kids to explain what it is I do is pretty funny. They're not accurate. It's fine. Whatever.
Well, have you ever had like
understand what I do?
That is why I had my parents come to Elevate last year, because they also could not explain what I do. And so I'm like, and I even remember being there and they beat me to New Orleans and they're like, we just met somebody and we told them that you're the director of marketing at TMSA. I'm like, that is not what I do anymore. I used to be a director of marketing and now I work for TMSA, but those are two different things. So I think they're getting better now that they got to come and see. My dad tells people I have a video crew. I'm like, also not me, the show. The show has a video team, not me. They don't just follow me around. Don't say that to people. But everybody's learning.
Yeah, that's all we can do. Keep telling them. Someday they'll pick it up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and telling us all of your trade show tips. Happy trade show kicking off season. I will see you in Manifest, and looking forward to all that. And if anyone watching is interested in learning more about AI, next week's episode is with Jeff Price, who loves AI so much, and he's always a wealth of knowledge on the topic. Super excited to show you guys what we have talked about in ways to improve your efficiency. So thanks so much, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Everybody.